First up is Dan Isaacs, the CRO and Executive Director of the Digital Twin Symposium, the most respected global organization on virtual twins from OMG, the Object Management Group. Dan has 20 years experience in the business and will highlight how virtual twins are truly key enablers to the digital transformation, or should I say, the industry's metamorphosis. Please give a big round of applause to Dan Isaacs.
Thank you, everybody. First, I want to thank Dassault Systems for bringing us out and all the support for OMG. Dassault Systems is actually a member of 3 of our different consortia, and they've really been instrumental in helping continue to drive the whole digital transformation, so thank you very much. I actually wanted to start off with a passage, and this is from a new book that just came out. It's on digital twin, and really it's really enlightening this forward. It's imagine the future of the global economy. Imagine factories that produce experiences with data flows, replacing part supplies. Imagine being able to represent and cure a human body as efficiently as we model and test a plane or a car. Imagine a clinical trial involving virtual patients and being evaluated using an AI engine. Digital twins, or virtual experiences, as I rather name them, are unparalleled catalysts and enablers of this global transformation of the economy. Digital twins are representations of the world that combine modeling, simulation, and real-world evidence. In other words, they make it possible to understand the past while navigating the future. And I want to thank Mr. Charles Bernard for that forward. Thank you very much. So, make sure I'm advancing here. So Digital Twin Consortium was formed about 3 years ago. And many people don't realize it, but we're part of an overall umbrella under the Object Management Group. And that's over 35 years of experience around standards and building those across many, many different industries. SysML, UML, UAF, these types of, all these standards came forward, and they're across many, many different industries now. There are 7 consortia under the Object Management Group umbrella. And you can see here, the collection of those really represent a true way to understand what sustainable digital transformation is all about. Whether it's from the sensors themselves, the data collection, the data capture, with the industry, IoT consortium, whether it's the visualization of that data with the Augmented Reality Enterprise Alliance, or whether it's the actual understanding of what does it mean to be responsible in terms of your compute, in terms of environmental, societal, governance, the equitable use of that data. That's the Responsible Compute Society Consortium. But then look at it from bridging that virtual to the reality, to the physical. As I just read in that forward, imagine the possibilities across those. That's where the Digital Twin Consortium comes in. It provides that bridge from a virtualization of a physical entity or a process. Think about supply chain management. But the key factor here is the synchronization of the data back from that physical or that process to that virtualization. That ensures the level of fidelity, the precision and accuracy is maintained in quote-unquote real time. And just a quick summary of Digital Twin Consortium. As I said, we were founded about 3 years ago. And we have had multiple areas in terms of steering committee members. This is our latest roster here. We just had BP join us as a steering committee member. We have Dell, GE. You'll see some examples of both of these members coming up, Johnson Controls, Northrop Grumman. So quite a diverse level in terms of the industry covered. But then look at the large companies, of which Dassault Systems is. You can see across the spectrum here, whether it's semiconductor companies, whether it's data companies, whether it's oil and gas, whether it's in the architecture, the construction, the engineering, the operations, or big pharma, and continue. And it's not just the solution providers. It's looking at the researchers. We have over a dozen universities across multiple countries represented. Academia, local government, where many mandates and regulations are. And then also representing the innovators. Many of our members came out of either universities or larger companies from that standpoint to be able to bring forward the technologies, the innovations, their thought leadership. And it's also about the end users and being able to really drive this home. We've had just a new big pharma join us. Eli Lilly has now joined as part of the consortium, and we continue to see others. And it's almost every week we see a new member joining. And I think that's really a testament to the fact that digital twins are the key enabler towards digital transformation. And we continue to drive the ecosystem to accelerate not just the awareness of digital twins, but accelerate the adoption. And to do that by developing best practices, bringing out those innovators, bringing out the innovation, the thought leadership, and showcase that value through real-world applications. And you're going to see some of those coming up here very shortly. We've actually been able to go forward and create what we call our reference library, a technology showcase, across a broad base. But we don't just stop with our members. We actually have, and by the end of the summer, we'll have our regional branch organizer, who will be essentially a key area in terms of their specific region to bring forward and proliferate this digital twin adoption. And by the end of the summer, we'll have one in every major continent of the world. That's pretty significant because now we can cross-link those. We can help to really drive and accelerate that adoption as opposed to see duplications of effort unnecessarily. But then we also work with many, many different liaisons, many different alliances and consortiums. Our most recent, and you'll see an example of this, is OPC Foundation. They have 850 companies. How are we structured? We're structured in 12 different domains or working groups. We started with just 4. So within 3 years, we've tripled our membership, and we've grown in terms of the numbers, tripled the number of working groups that we have across virtually every domain. And we are truly member-driven, highly collaborative, very results-oriented, and we want to be able to demonstrate. And this is what I was referring to, our reference library, our technology showcase. Every 3 weeks, we're rolling out another demonstration to show the value of digital twins through real-world applications that show that value at the different life cycle phases of the digital twin technology. So we're going to see a couple of those right now. One of these, this is one of our members who's working with the largest hospital in Singapore. And this actually came out as how can they look to use a digital twin to manage and possibly prevent a situation where we'd have a contagion and an outbreak. So leveraging, again, one of the largest hospitals in Singapore, is a short video on this.
Presenting the proof of concept ReadyDots project. This is a digital twin of Singapore General Hospital. It is built through a gaming platform to give you a 3D layout of the hospital and the environment. Within the 3D rendering, we are able to visualize the various ward piping, the airflow and local air currents, and the spatial and temporal relationships between the ward patients and the environment. As seen as this walkthrough through Ward 66.
So you can see that
As you move about the
representation.
hospital, you are able to also add patient-level data to be able to visualize the various patient conditions or various infectious disease markers or other environmental variables into the data set.
So this is the synchronization I was referring
This
to.
use case is a staff that turned positive, a doctor, who then did ward rounds and tended to some group of patients. These patients were the primary contact during the infectious period, and we also had to further identify the secondary contacts by merging the various environmental and temporal relationships of the patient data.
Now, the beauty of that was it could actually rewind in time. Another value the digital twin provides, it gives you this holistic view. It looks at the historical, and then what's happening now, the situational awareness, the event intelligence, to, with the highest level of confidence, be able to forecast, simulate, and predict that future, optimize that outcome. And basically look at it from a hindsight to an insight to foresight. And that's not my statements. That's actually the Chief Digital Officer for Digital Transformation from NASA. And you really can see that brought out in multiple areas. This next example is a digital twin of the self. So if you think about this, how can we virtualize an area, in this case, the brain? So this is actually one of our members. He was volunteering to show this to us. He suffered greatly from grand mal epileptic seizures. And so he was able to actually bring this forward and had this implant. And through this, he was able to create a digital twin of his brain. So I had a virtualization of his brain. And then having these implants, they slowly increased the level of voltage with those electrodes to control it. And he had a seizure right away. So they slowly ramped it up again. The seizure stopped. The severity of it stopped. He hasn't had a grand mal in, I think it's been 5 years because of this. And if this isn't a transformative outcome, I don't know what is. He's able to operate now in life because he has his digital twin. In fact, he told me just the other day, I just got my latest operating system update. So now we'll look at it, in this case, from a digital twin in industry. Again, the productivity, the efficiency. This is one of our members looking at it from the standpoint of a steel melting facility. And this isn't just any steel melting facility. This is a facility in Korea that's 40 stories tall. Think about that. It's a blast furnace that's 40 stories. And what do they need to be able to do? They need to be able to look at the key parameters. They want to apply artificial intelligence, understand this. And this is, again, leveraging the experience of workers who've been there for 30 years. Now you're capturing all that information using the digital twin. You're being able to capture that information so for the future worker, they'll be able to understand and see these parameters and know what to look for. So annually, it's amount to 85,000 tons. So this means 85,000 more cars could be produced. And this is what one of our members is doing. And they were approached because they're actually doing other blast furnaces. And they said, no, what you're doing is pretty amazing. You're actually anticipating in real time where I need to be able to put the tap holes to ensure that I have the highest purity of the ore coming out. And so in real time, and you'll see this concept brought out by Dr. Michael Greaves, it's called front-running simulation. They're able to take the data they have and simulate and run their model faster than real time. And they're updating here, as you can see, all of these different parameters and figuring out what is the most advantageous point to do that. These key capabilities you can see here listed here in terms of the solution. So bringing forward this advanced analytics using artificial intelligence, another example of continuous improvement that's provided by the digital twin. So look at one other case here. Looking at toxicity tracking, looking at the carbon and carbon reporting. So this is again with the liaison I was telling you about, OPCUA Foundation. I was just at Hanover presenting on this along with a couple of the members. And one of the key areas was interoperability. That's a key challenge because you have the system of systems. How do you ensure the proper flow of the data through those different systems of systems? Think about smart buildings to smart cities, scaling to smart countries. And that's the modeling. And then really paramount, and you have to start with this in the first beginning, is the security of that data. You can't retrofit security. You need to understand that from day one. And so this was being able to calculate the carbon footprint for Scope 3 emissions all the way down to the final through the supply chain management. Another example is in terms of the sustainability. We're talking about identifying and reducing carbon footprint, carbon emissions, but also helping to simulate and optimize the environment from this perspective. So I'll let this video run here. I guess we're not getting much audio this reason. Here we go.
Making decisions is sort of the key point of it. But there's definitely such a realm of possibilities. It's quite exciting time to be looking into that.
Yeah. From a digital twin perspective, so we're effectively creating a virtual digital copy of what exists in the physical world, right? So we help reduce the conflict so that we can plan better how we would tap into resources in those areas without causing large-scale destruction.
Taking that kind of data, mapping it, simulating it, looking for correlations between crime and deforestation is one of the big areas. Having a more in-depth picture of what is going on in these rainforests that's maybe not necessarily reported or clearly visible on the ground. We can take data sources that are a little bit more self-explanatory and make conclusions from those to give a really clear picture.
Giving that level of transparency, it can be shared and you can be given to the right authorities, and certainly the more eyeballs on these hotspots, the more pressure these local governments will have to start thinking about, okay, we've really got to protect these areas.
You could make an environment that was sort of conducive to the goals of all of these governments. They would have high incentives to feed data into that, which would only improve the digital twin.
Pretty impressive. That's working with the Rainforest Trust, actually, one of our members, and continuing to build that out. We have one of our members that has a whole series over in Fiji, and they have 2,500 acres of rainforest. Now that can turn into carbon credits. So continue to move that forward. Now let's go from the rainforest now to space, to geophysical activities. One of the beauties of the Digital Twin Consortium is the fact that we have 12 different domains represented, so we can bring in all the knowledge base and that collective intelligence across those different areas. And for me personally, being able to combine my geophysics with my computer engineering, it was really great to be able to bring this member forward. Now, if you think about it, this is working with the European Commission, talking about weather-induced geophysical extremes and climate change adoption. And this concept of coronal mass ejections, sun flares, sunspots, what do those do? What is the effect on the Earth when these occur? Because they're occurring all the time. Well, here's a short video talking about it.
Hits, and or when this high-speed stream hits, we don't know exactly how well timed those two are going to be together. There's going to be an emptying, most likely an emptying of electron flux from that outer radiation belt, which is around 4 to 10 Earth radii away, and that will cause particle precipitation downwards into the ionosphere, increasing ionospheric potentials, and that then changes telluric currents in the ground, that changes factors like the Schumann resonances, and this can even trigger very large earthquakes. There's really good research showing how solar dynamics can at least, they can load faults with energy, and then they can also, powerful enough, trigger earthquakes. So we're going to look back at the 13th, and we're going back in time because I want to show you what these Schumann resonances have been doing. These are a frequency of light, the frequencies of light that connect to so many different processes on Earth. They connect to climate, temperature, weather patterns. They connect to the ionosphere, the radiation belts. The Schumann resonances actually are able to pull electrons out of the radiation belts and cause.
And we actually have one of our members who has a geophysical research center. They have a modeling point, and it was down in Arkansas. And when the big hurricanes were coming in just this past couple months, they actually saw a whole swarm of earthquakes occurring. And it was correlating again to one of the major sun flares that had just happened. So now they're looking at this in the context of not just earthquakes, but also the hurricanes and also lightning spots and lightning storms. So being able to correlate these, Digital Twin provides that framework to model these in terms of the grid and in terms of the effects of the different types of transients that are occurring. So what are some of the challenges? You've seen some of the great things that digital twins are enabling here, but what are some of the challenges? What are some of the impediments, right? What are the real capabilities? One of the things that the Digital Twin Consortium had done was actually put together a framework or a way to compose a digital twin. and looking at it in terms of what is the job you're hiring the digital twin for, and then understand what are the capabilities. Don't start with the architecture or the data, look at the capabilities. From that, understand what's the optimal technology to use, then look at the data and understand, do I need to supplement that with synthetic data? What are the different approaches? And then look at that implementation. And actually, that's a toolkit that we released, and we had companies join us specifically because that resonated so well with them. And they were able to use that to now go to the next level. And so we have our horizontal working group, our capabilities and technologies group actually has a subgroup around composability and establishing that, of which Dassault Systèmes is being very helpful in following through in those different areas, as well as several of our other working groups, being co-chairs in our Smart Agriculture, Food and Beverage working group, co-chair also of our Mobility and Transportation. So, what are some of the key impediments? What are the capabilities? Change management really needs to start from the top and agree this is an approach, because the digital twin is a journey. We have the ways to start that journey, and we have the examples to show how they've been successful. Cohesion and integration, we talked about interoperability. And then, of course, the security of the data. So this is from one of our members. This is Dr. Michael Greaves. He's the father of the concept of digital twins. He's the one who came up with the concept in the early 2000s, writing a pivotal paper on PLM and bringing that forward now. And he's written another paper. It's one of the most downloaded papers there is on ResearchGate on the evolution of digital twins. If you have interest, I can certainly send you the link, but it's showing how digital twins are evolving, and they're evolving very quickly to become more intelligent. There's that concept of FRS, of front-running simulation, running my models faster than real time to be able to get that optimal outcome. Where digital twins have gone from a passive state to more active, where they've gone from goal-directed to actually being goal-seeking, and being able to be not just predictive, but being able to anticipate through that area. And that's what we're seeing is this concept of the intelligent digital twin. So, just to conclude my presentation, you can see the innovations. You can see through the collaboration, this collective intelligence that Digital Twin Consortium has brought together, bringing forward the innovation, the leadership, and the opportunities to grow and expand. So, with that, I want to say thank you very much for your time, and I'll be available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. Stay with me.
Patrick.
Stay with me. Stay with me. Before we see if there are any questions, one question for me. It's so diverse, what you show, in terms of knowledge and know-how and domain. When we think about platform to sustain twins and virtual twins experiences, what are, so far, your takeaways?
Really, the key is the platform. And actually, unbeknownst, we are actually releasing our platform architectural reference framework in the next couple of weeks. Okay. And it's going to talk about what does it really look like when I converge IT and OT? What does that full stack up look like? What are the considerations that I need to have? And foundational, again, is that security and trustworthiness, which brings out reliability, it brings out resiliency, brings out privacy.
Okay.
So very important.
Any questions from the audience so far? Okay, so we thank you very much, Dr. Dan Isaacs.
Thank you.
And what is clear also for me is that what you show in the many examples that you show is that indeed there is a loop between the data from reality and the virtuality of our actionable representations. So thank you so much to MG to underline how much twins can truly be regenerating our reality in profound sustainable ways.